What's up, everyone? I'm Dr. Charlie Ottinger, and I'm a strength and conditioning coach here with Blue Green Training. Today, we're going to talk about how you can get better at your rucking performance. Now, you're probably watching this video because you know from all the research you've already done, rucking performance is one of the best predictors of success at selection. So obviously you want to get better at rucking, right? Well, I'm going to tell you the long story short, and if you have enough attention span, I know I don't, stick around. We're going to get into more of the nitty gritty. But the long story short is that for you to get better at rucking, I know you're already running. I know you're already lifting. It's the things you're not doing that can help you get better. And that's interval training and really heavy strength training. Okay? So if you can still stick around, let's get into why those things can help you. When we look at rucking or anything in exercise science at all, we first have to do a needs analysis of what's going on. So the rucking, obviously you're carrying a pack. At selection, it's going to weigh 35 pounds or maybe even more if they really like you. You're walking a long distance on an uneven terrain. It's not flat and you have to do it quickly. This is not a stroll. You're almost running the entire time. So if we think about all of these things put together, you need strength because that pack is heavy. You need strength endurance because you're going to be carrying that pack for multiple hours. And finally, you need that endurance because you'll be performing activity for several hours. So everybody looks at this and says, cool, I'll lift some weights and I'm going to do my running and I'm set, right? Not so fast. If we look at previous research, we know that running alone actually doesn't improve rucking performance at all. Doing strength training alone does a little bit, but it's really only because the people that weren't already strength training before added that strength training and now they got better at rucking. They did something they weren't already doing. So if we look at how to improve rucking, you need to add something you're not already doing. Let's look at the cardio first. When we're doing this ruck, we're building up a lot of what we call metabolites. Metabolites are kind of the byproducts of motion, essentially. Just how your car has exhaust gases that leave after you burn gasoline, let's say, your body has something similar after we burn fuel. These things include lactic acid, which breaks apart into lactate, which can be used for energy, and hydrogen ions, which cause that burning sensation in your muscle. If you suck at clearing these metabolites, your muscles are going to be burning. You're going to be gasping for air because that sends an emergency signal to your body that some not so cool stuff's going down. Okay, so normal running helps you clear these metabolites out decently, but interval training is actually probably more effective for that. And studies have even shown that adding interval training into your rucking training might be more effective than just normal cardio alone. So we get to interval training. I want you to think about interval training as intervals of really high effort interspersed by periods of rest. Traditionally, interval training involves sprinting. You can sprint anywhere from 10 to maybe 2 minutes, 10 seconds to 2 minutes, and then rest for a given amount of time. Generally, at least a 1-to-1 work-to-rest ratio. Here's the problem though. You're probably already rucking at least once or twice a week. You're already running a couple times a week. Doing more running is not going to do you any good. By the time you show up to selection, your knees are going to be shredded to pieces, okay? So my thought for interval training, hop on the bike. Whether it's a bike machine or even an actual road bike, do your interval training this way because you're still training the same muscles that you're using in this ruck. You're still training your legs, your back, your core. You're training all these things in not terribly dissimilar positions to that ruck, and you're getting them better at removing these metabolites and improving your endurance, okay? So these interval training on the bike, I like to do about 4 to 6 sets of 30 seconds of all-out effort, everything you got. Those last 5 seconds, you better be dragging ass. You're pushing so hard. After that 30 seconds of work, you can rest. You can slowly cycle if you want. You can lay on the ground and throw up if you want. Just rest for 2 to 4 minutes, hop back on the bike and go again. Do that for about 4 to 6 rounds. Research actually shows that's more effective than just running for 20 minutes alone. Okay, so add that interval training into what you're doing. If you really want to get specific to carrying that pack and rucking, you can do intervals with rucking. You think about the 3 factors that go into rucking: the weight of your pack, how fast you're walking or running, and the terrain you're on. You can do intervals by adjusting any of those three things. Grab a heavier pack, double the weight, triple the weight, and try to move it quickly for 4, 5, 10 minutes at a time, then rest. Or grab your pack, try to move quickly up the steepest hill you can find. Do that for a couple minutes at a time, rest. Doing these intervals is going to get you better at clearing out some of these metabolites. It's going to get you more comfortable pushing yourself from a psychological standpoint. Now, when we look at the strength aspect of rucking, a lot of people look at strength training and they say, oh, I'm going to do 8, 10, 12 reps of this, do a couple sets, move on to the next thing. Yes, that is strength training, but you need to think of strength as a skill. And strength is specific to how you train. So if you want to get really strong, you need to lift really heavy weights and you need to do lower reps in order to actually lift those heavy weights. So we look at something like rucking, you're standing upright and you have a weight that your spine is supporting, as in the weight on your pack, on the back. We need to use movements that emulate this position and force you to lift heavier weights. That's things like squats, deadlifts, overhead press, even heavy carries. All of these exercises are going to improve strength in that standing position. Now, you should do or stick to reps in anywhere from that 3 to 6 rep range, but those 3 to 6 reps need to be hard. That bar or weight or whatever it is you're moving should be moving slow as hell by those last rep or two, because if it's not slowing down, you're not lifting heavy enough. That movement or the weight slowing down is how you know you've truly tapped into everything the muscle has. So for a lot of your major exercises, kick this 10 to 12 rep stuff, kick that to the curb, go for those lower reps, go for the higher weights and actually get strong. Now, when it comes to dialing all this in together, you're actually heading to selection, you're getting ready for this test. Obviously, you need to back off of something, right? You can't show up lifting super heavy. You can't show up doing intervals every other day. You need to show up ready to be destroyed for a couple of weeks. If you're already killing yourself by the time you get to camp, you're not at a good starting point. So whenever you know your selection date is, whenever you know that you're heading out for your testing, plan backwards. Know that you need to be in peak physical condition by the time you get there, because it's all downhill from there. So think about the 2 weeks before you head to selection. That needs to be a bit of a taper period. You're going to start backing off. You need to show up at 100%, 0 injuries, 0 aches and pains, because you're going to have plenty of those as soon as that selection period starts. So generally, if I'm going to program a strength training program for some sort of event like that, I'm looking at least 12 or 16 weeks out. I'm going to start doing some of my heaviest lifting about 10, 8, maybe 6 weeks out, and then I'm going to start tapering down as I get closer to that selection period. As you get closer to selection, you don't have to do a crazy amount of stuff to maintain that strength. Even going up to 1 rep of 90% of your max on every lift the week beforehand will be enough to maintain your strength, okay? So ultimately, I want you guys to think about whatever you're doing to get better at rucking, do something else. That running is not going to help you in the long run. You need to do something other than running. Try interval training, either on a bike or even with your pack if you want to be specific. Lifting weights in those higher rep ranges isn't doing you as much good as you think. You need to drop down, you need to lift heavier weights, and you really need to push yourself, because that strength directly relates to how easy it is for you to carry that pack, okay? Thanks so much, guys. I hope you got something out of this. Leave us a comment, ask us some questions. We're more than happy to help you guys out. See you next time.